So the first part of the video is where I'll be talking about system architecture. So there's a difference between system architecture of operating system and system architecture of a server. System architecture of an operating system sets the foundation for how a system will function, whereas system architecture of a server refers to a distributed computing system where tasks are divided between the server computer and the client computer. The core of the Windows Server architecture will be revolving around its kernel, whereas the core of the Ubuntu Server architecture revolves around a layered approach, where the kernel acts as the central intermediary between hardware and software. Now, comparison between Windows Server and Ubuntu Server. The first aspect is the kernel type. For Windows Server, it's a hybrid kernel, which is a combination between monolithic and microkernel, whereas for Ubuntu Server, it's a monolithic kernel. As for source code, Windows is closed source where the source code is not publicly available, and Ubuntu Server is open source, which is the opposite of closed source. And then we have process management, where both servers use preemptive multitasking, where the operating system manages the execution of multiple processes. And then we have memory management, where both servers use virtual memory and paging. But for Ubuntu Server, there's also segmentation. And lastly, file system structure, where Windows Server uses new technology file system, whereas Ubuntu Server uses file system hierarchy standard. File system is basically like for NTFs. So files and directories are organized in a tree-like structure with a root directory and subsequent subdirectories, whereas for file system hierarchy standard, a single file system tree with the root directory denoted by a /.
Let's take a quick look at the performance comparisons between Windows Server and Ubuntu Server. Starting with CPU usage, Windows has higher idle usage, which is around 10 to 15% due to its GUI and background services, while Ubuntu is more lightweight, using just 5 to 10% thanks to its CLI environment. Memory efficiency also favors Ubuntu, which only needs 400 to 600 MB at idle compared to Windows using over 2 GB. For this I/O speed, Windows uses NTFS, which is reliable but slower. Ubuntu supports ext4 and other advanced file systems, offering up to 30% faster write-up speeds. In network I/O, both perform well, but Ubuntu is more tunable and cloud-friendly. Resource consumption is heavier in Windows, suited for robust hardware, whereas Ubuntu is ideal for VMs and is another advantage for Ubuntu, which is under 20 seconds compared to up to 60 for Windows. In terms of task handling, Windows shines with the NAT and SQL integration, while Ubuntu excels with containerized apps. For virtualization, Hyper-V is strong in Windows but consumes more resources. Ubuntu's KVM or QEM more efficient for many workloads. And finally, in real-world benchmark, Ubuntu outperforms Windows by 20 to 30% in cloud and I/O-intensive environments. So overall, Ubuntu is better suited for lightweight, scalable deployment, while Windows fits well in traditional enterprise environments.
A secure operating system must protect data, prevent unauthorized access, and resist attack. Let's compare the security feature of Windows servers and Ubuntu server. First, the security model. Windows use NTFS permission, group policy, and Active Directory for centralized control with role-based access control (RBAC). Ubuntu uses a unique style discretionary access control combined with AppArmor or Selenium for mandatory access control, offering more flexibility for hidden deployment. Next, the firewall. Windows has Windows Defender Firewall managed through a GUI or PowerShell with tight integration into group policy. Ubuntu relies on UFW, a simple CLI tool with advanced backend options like IP table or NFT table, and can be enhanced with tools like fail2ban. For authentication, Windows integrate with Active Directory, support Kerberos SSO, MFA, and tools like Credential Guard and Windows Hello. Ubuntu use PAM, supporting SSH keys, LDAP, and MFA tools like Google Authenticator or YubiKey. Lastly, for updates, Windows offers WSUS, SCCM, and automatic updates through Patch Tuesday. Ubuntu use APT with unattended upgrades and can technical live patch for kernel updates without rebooting. In summary, Windows Server factors centralized GUI-driven management, while Ubuntu offers open source flexibility with strong CLI and automation tools.
Next, I'll be presenting a comparison of administration and management tools between Windows and Ubuntu operating system. Starting with GUI tools, Windows offers a more user-friendly experience through control panel, settings, and Windows Admin Center. Ubuntu, on the other hand, provides basic graphical tools like genome settings and cockpit, but still relies heavily on command line for advanced management. In terms of command line utilities, Ubuntu leads with Bash and native tools like apt, system control, and htop, while Windows uses PowerShell, which is powerful, especially in enterprise environment. For remote management, Windows supports RDP and Admin Center for GUI access, while Ubuntu depends on SSH for secure and lightweight management. When it comes to automation, Ubuntu is preferred for DevOps environment using cron and Ansible, whereas Windows uses Task Scheduler and Intune. Lastly, for scripting, Ubuntu supports multiple languages like Bash and Python, while Windows mainly focuses on PowerShell and Bash scripting. In conclusion, both have their strengths. Windows for GUI and enterprise tools, Ubuntu for CLI flexibility and open source environments.
Now we are going into the use case comparisons between Ubuntu servers and Windows servers. Although both are versatile operating systems, each one shines in different areas. For web hosting, Ubuntu server is much preferred due to its support for Apache, MySQL, PHP, and also its open source nature with no license cost. Windows servers, on the other hand, dominates in the database management, enterprise environments, and application developments because of its integrations with Microsoft SQL Server, Active Directory, and tools like Visual Studio. It also handles file sharing and printing, remote desktop access, and mail server hosting very well thanks to the built-in service like RDS and Microsoft Exchange. Now let's talk about cost and licensing. Windows Server uses a proprietary licensing model with core-based pricing and requires additional client access license or cost for each user or device. In contrast, Ubuntu Server is open source, free to use, and doesn't require calls. Windows also has higher maintenance costs due to frequent patching, reboots, and resource-heavy GUI. Ubuntu offers lower long-term costs with free updates, fewer reboots, and optional paid support like Ubuntu Pro for ringgit 2,350 per year, free for up to 5 personal machines.